The year 762 CE, the powerful Abbasid ruler Al-Mansur ordered the construction of a brand new capital for the Abbasid Caliphate. This city would soon become one of the most extraordinary centers of civilization in human history, Baghdad. Built along the fertile banks of the Tigris River, the city was strategically located between Asia, Africa, and Europe. Caravans from distant lands passed through its gates, bringing goods, cultures, and ideas. Within just a few decades, Baghdad transformed from a newly built capital into a thriving metropolis. Scholars, merchants, artists, and travelers from across the world gathered there, turning the city into the beating heart of the Islamic world. Baghdad was designed in a way no other medieval city had ever been built. It was constructed as a massive circular city, often called the Round City. At its center stood the Caliph's Grand Palace and the main mosque, symbolizing both political and spiritual authority. Surrounding them were administrative offices, homes of officials, bustling markets, and residential neighborhoods. Strong defensive walls and gates protected the city from invasion. The careful planning reflected the power and ambition of the Abbasid rulers. As the city expanded, its population rapidly grew, eventually reaching hundreds of thousands of residents. At a time when most cities were small and chaotic, Baghdad stood as a masterpiece of urban planning and architectural brilliance. By the 9th century, Baghdad had become the center of an intellectual revolution now known as the Islamic Golden Age. Under rulers like Harun al-Rashid, the city flourished not only in wealth but also in knowledge. Scholars from different religions and cultures were welcomed. Muslims, Christians, Jews, and Persians worked side by side in pursuit of learning. The Abbasid court actively supported science, philosophy, literature, and mathematics. Libraries expanded, debates filled the halls of learning, and curiosity drove scholars to explore the mysteries of the universe. Baghdad was quickly becoming the intellectual capital of the medieval world. One of the greatest institutions of learning in history emerged in Baghdad, the House of Wisdom. Established during the reign of Al-Ma'mun, this institution served as a library, translation center, and research academy. Scholars gathered ancient manuscripts from Greece, Persia, and India. Works written by philosophers such as Aristotle and Plato were translated into Arabic. But these scholars did not merely preserve knowledge, they expanded it. They debated ideas, conducted experiments, and developed new theories that would later influence civilizations far beyond the Islamic world. Baghdad produced some of the most brilliant minds in history. The mathematician Al-Khwarizmi developed the foundations of algebra, a mathematical system still used today. His work also introduced the concept of algorithms, which are now essential to modern computing. The physician Al-Razi wrote detailed medical texts that were studied in Europe for centuries. Meanwhile, the philosopher Al-Farabi explored questions about politics, ethics, and human society. Astronomers built observatories to study the stars, while geographers mapped the known world. Baghdad became a city where knowledge was valued as much as wealth or power. The city connected markets across Asia, Africa, and Europe. Merchant caravans arrived carrying Chinese silk, Indian spices, African ivory, and Byzantine textiles. The city's markets were filled with luxury goods and exotic products from distant lands. This wealth allowed the Abbasid rulers to fund grand architecture, support scholars, and sponsor artistic creations. Baghdad's prosperity made it famous across the world, and travelers described it as one of the most magnificent cities ever seen. However, the power of Baghdad could not last forever. Over time, political divisions weakened the Abbasid Caliphate. Regional rulers gained independence, and internal conflicts reduced the caliph's authority. At the same time, a new and terrifying power was rising in Central Asia, the Mongols. In the mid-13th century, a Mongol army led by Hulagu Khan, grandson of Genghis Khan, marched westward. Their campaign brought destruction to many cities across the region. Eventually, their forces reached the gates of Baghdad, threatening the greatest center of learning in the Islamic world. In 1258, the Mongols launched a devastating attack known as the Siege of Baghdad, 1258. After a brief but intense siege, the city fell. What followed was one of the darkest moments in medieval history.